How we ended up wanting to start a brewery goes back a lot of years. Both Jeremy and I love to travel, particularly the overland style, where it's very basic and you're often camping and sitting around a campfire at night, drinking wherever you end up that day and whatever beers you have available that you got locally. And we started talking about, maybe someday having a bar and how great it would be. And I think lots of people have that dream. And so we were talking about this while we were traveling in Africa in 2010. Again, camping out of the back of our truck and sitting around having beers from the countries we were in. And was like, you know what, we should actually do this someday. We should actually try and make this happen. And it took a long way to get from there to here, but that's sort of where we really decided that was something we wanted to do. And we wanted to have a traveling theme or a car theme, or it ended up being a little classic racing theme for our style here.
As Jeff said, the idea of having a bar where you could have these beers, our original idea was to just get all these exotic beers from around the world and bring them to your bar, so that every time you drink a beer from one of those places, it would feel like a journey, similar to the same way that if you were driving this Mini from Phoenix to Tucson, that was a very impressive in the sense that it made an impression trip. And if there was some local beer or brewery on the way, we probably would have stopped. As we got more and more into learning about beer, it turns out beer doesn't travel well. They always say that Guinness is better in Ireland, and that's true. I mean, now Guinness is brewed all over the world, but you get my point. If you take a Guinness, brew it in Dublin, by the time it gets on a boat and gets to the west coast of the US, that's a very different beer than when it left Ireland. And so if you want these different flavors from around the world, from a production standpoint, it actually makes sense to brew them in-house. So if I want to brew an Irish stout, I can brew it here, pour it out the front, and you'll taste a little bit of Dublin, as opposed to trying to get a beer from Ireland in the same condition that it left all the way over here. And that's true for Belgium and Germany and all these other beers. So if you want these exotic styles and you want to take that emotional trip with that beer, it's better to make it here so that you can maintain control of it and make sure that the consumer gets that flavor that they're going for. So that ties in with the whole rest of the theme of this place. So if you come in, we want you to feel like you're on an adventure. You're going to come in, you're going to look at these photos, an adventure in time, going back to Monza and whatever year that was, or 1973 with this, and then an adventure in space, in geography. This is an English car, that's the Italian GP, and then the beer will be Irish or Belgian or German or British or whatever. And so all of those things, like, we want you to have left the regular world behind and come on this adventure with us in this space, using all of these things, and most specifically the beer. We wanted to create a space where people would, find what we had done interesting beyond just having an amazing beer. We wanted them to be in a space where they could, see some history, see some passion in a way that really worked. And then in coming up with the name, we needed something that reflected that theme and that passion, that also reflected the local nature of brewing and Tucson, where we are. And then Sonora, we're smack, right in the heart of the Sonoran Desert, and that's a very Tucson thing. Now the Sonoran Desert's a little bigger than Tucson, and it goes all the way to Baja California even, but Sonora is also kind of a culture. I know there's a big international border here, but the people on the north side of it, in the state of Arizona and the Sonoran Desert, have a lot in common with people on the south side of it in the Mexican state of Sonora. So there's a regional feeling to what we're trying to do here, in terms of the name and the concept, and hopefully that'll be reflected in our beer as well. And when we were starting building, people were coming out of the woodwork saying, you guys need a race car in your tasting room. You need a race car in your tasting room. Like, yeah, we need a race car in our tasting room. Yeah, we don't have a budget for a race car in our tasting room. And we have a very small tasting room. There is no room for a race car in our tasting room. And then when I was looking at art for the walls, I came across that iconic photo of the 1965 Monte Carlo Rally, where this Mini Cooper is just blasting through the snow coming across the finish line, and I was like, that's it. There's a race car that we could possibly afford and would possibly fit in here. So we got a tape measure and got the dimensions of a Mini Cooper online and mapped it out on the floor and said, okay, this could work. Now I got to sell Jeff on it, and then go from there. And
we drove it down, and driving it down was an adventure in itself. It doesn't go 80 miles an hour like other cars do. We had to drive the back way through Florence, and the suspension, even when they're brand new, is not great, and so it was a little bouncy ride. But we got it here, it drove great. We've been driving around since we got back to Tucson, and and now it sits here in our tasting room.
Yeah, the idea behind MotoSonora Brewing was to create a small destination brewery that would also function as a production brewery. We wanted to have enough capacity to serve all of our partners in the retail bar and restaurant world, and also create a place that would have a sense of community. And that relates to the cars, but it also relates to the fact that we use native plants in our beer garden, that we have a little dog park, that we do, fundraisers for nonprofits. We just wanted to create a space that was welcoming to everybody and compelling and made people just want to stay here. It sort of functions, in a similar way as the pubs do in England and Ireland, where it's not a place to go and drink rot gut whiskey till you black out. You go there with your family, your kids can come, you will play games, you'll read, maybe you even work on a computer. It's just wanted to feel a little bit like your living room away from your living room. Another concept for this is the third space concept, where it's not work, it's not home, but it's a place where you go and feel comfortable. So we wanted to create a good third space and then still have enough production capacity to make beer for other people as well.
So that's it. That's how we ended up here. We really want people to come down, enjoy what we've tried to do. We put a lot of thought in this place, in the tasting room itself, in the beer garden, and we think if you come down and bring your friends, your family, you'll enjoy it hopefully as much as we do.